Greetings, everyone. Once again, it's Motamwanidi sharing the authentic truth brought to us by Zulula 100, the only teacher. So before I begin, I would like to thank Loba, the only and unique creator, to have allowed us to know the truth in this time, in this era, through his mysterious son, second son, Zulula 100. So be it. So here the teaching I will share is going to be regarding the conscious request of King Solomon. And for that, we shall go in Bibèl, Kalatambale, the book of the truth, the only authentic Bible without any errors or contradiction. Because many people have tried to falsify, change the story of the King Solomon. They change his name, they change his places of birth, they try to change his color, they try to change his story. But the truth is restored. And Solomon, his true name is Mun. And for that, in 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 1 to 14, it says this. The title is Mun, ask Mandaté, the entity, for wisdom to reign. To reign. It says here, verse 1. One night, while Mun was sleeping, Mandaté, the entity, appeared to him in a soul dream. So soul dream is the translation in French is songe, which, because the dream is to see with the consciousness of the body. The songe, so the soul dream, is to see with the eyes of the soul, and you have the vision, which is to see with the eyes of the spirit. So here you're told that one night while Mun was sleeping, Mandaté, the entity, so that's the entity that guides and enthrones the initiate, appeared to him in a soul dream. So it was in a songe, so that is to see with the eyes of the soul. So it wasn't a simple dream, and it wasn't a vision. And said to him, so Mandaté appeared to him, chose to appear to him in that soul dream. Ask what you desire. I will grant it to you in your conscious state. So Mun became king after his father who was Tondu, is known in the current class of the Bible as David, had already left the visible. So Mandaté, the entity that guides and enthrones the initiate, he penetrates the reality of dreams, the soul dreams, and Mun, who had a soul dream, so he was seeing with the eyes of his soul, but he was guided by the Spirit. He was guided by the Spirit. Because in the dreams, the regular dreams, people can forget, you can wake up, oh, what did I dream, and so on. But here, Mandaté said to him, ask what you desire, and I will grant it to you in your conscious state. So he will be conscious, because he was conscious in this soul dream. He was lucid. His body was asleep. So the physical body was asleep, but he still had his faculties. He still was conscious. And that his soul. We see a reference here regarding in Job chapter 33, verse 13 to 14, he says, so Temusia, he says, however, the verb of Loba speaks sometimes in one way, sometimes in another, and the uninitiated does not heed it. He speaks through the entities, through soul dreams, through nocturnal visions, without him seeing him. When the uninitiated are delivered into a deep sleep, they are asleep on when they are asleep on their bed. So people who are auto-proclaimed pastors, prophet, and so on, their mission will begin with a lie, with a sensation, with a religious demon's influence. But Munmun, the king, his kingdom had to be different. He had to begin differently from the uninitiated kings, from the reigns of the uninitiated, from their auto-proclamation. And he, because Monmon was an initiate, he was able to see Mutatiti. Because you're told in Job 33:14 that, however, the verb of Loba speaks sometimes in one way, sometimes in another, and the uninitiated does not heed it. Verse 14, he speaks through the entity, through soul dreams, through nocturnal visions, without him. So that's the uninitiated seeing him. So the uninitiated doesn't see the entities. When in Job 33:13 speaks to them through those soul dreams. But the initiate, like Munmun, he sees. That's why he says, Mutatiti, the entity, appeared to him. Now, Munmun, the king, had to be enlightened more than the sorcerers, the uninitiated kings at his time, at his era. His reign, his kingdom, the throne, he wasn't put there by the people, by the regular man. No, it was, the authority was from the great order of things. Verse 2, Munmun was a black man with frizzy hair of incredible beauty. So Munmun, Solomon, was black. He tried to change his stories. He tried to say no. Some of them, the theories that they'll bring up, they'll say no, he used to he commanded demons. He had a magic wand or staff or something like that that he used to command the demons. So they falsified so many things. But here is the truth. Verse 3, Munmun replied to Mutatiti, the entity, you and some of your fellow had treated the servant of Tetet Tondo, my father, with great fidelity. He who often walked in the presence of the verb in loyalty, justice, and righteousness of heart towards him, despite the fact that Satan, the Mundima Bobe, evil spirit, had sometime seduced him. So Munmun replied to the Mutate. He says, you. So that's uppercase you, that's the entity. So even in the soul dream, Munmun had the ability to distinguish, to know that that was an entity from the great order of things. He recognized that. That's why in the you, it's uppercase. Why? He says, you and some of your fellows. Fellows is also with the uppercase F. So those are the spiritual entities of the great order of things. Had treated the servant of Tete, Tondo, my father, with great fidelity. He who often walked in the presence of the verb in loyalty, justice, and righteousness of heart toward him. So that him is uppercase H for the verb. Despite the fact that Satan, the Munzima Bobe, evil spirit, had sometimes seduced him. Here, Manman doesn't, because the Mutatedi says, ask what you desire, and I will grant it to you. Manman doesn't start saying, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this and that, I want this kingdom, I want this wealth, I want it. No. He doesn't start like that. He understood something. When you are sent, because Manman was also there as a king, he was also to guide the people, to guide them into righteousness. He was there to govern them. And so he had a mission. So he understood that before, to accomplish his mission, he had to close the doors. Close all the doors. So he had to look in the past to see if there are open doors, entrance door that could influence him in his mission. And he had to close those. So he looks at the source first. He look in his past. That's why he says, you and some of your fellow had treated the servant of Tete, Tondo, my father, with great fidelity. So he looked through his past. He who often walked in the presence of the verb in loyalty, justice, and righteousness of heart towards him, despite the fact that Satan, the Munzima Bobe, evil spirit. So he understood, Manman, that Satan had seduced his father in the past. And he doesn't want also that same influence, that same entrance door to affect him, to affect his kingdom, to affect when he will govern. That if there were demons that were influencing my father, that those demons do not also influence, that those doors being closed so that they don't influence also his kingdom, his government, his reign. Verse 4, you kept this great fidelity with Tondo by gracing him of the innocent son to make him forget his previous outburst on the land of his ancestors. Period. So you're told that Solomon says, you kept this great fidelity with Tondo. So the Mutateti kept this great fidelity with Tondo by gracing him of the innocent son to make him forget. So he understood that he was there to restore as well what his father had done. He was there because he says, by gracing him of the innocent son to make him forget his previous outburst on the land of his ancestors. So he was there to sort of soothe those wounds, to heal, to restore. That was also the mission of Manman, the king. And Manman doesn't explain that to Mutateti because Mutateti already know. He knows. Verse 5, and this son, who is none other than me, now sit on his throne, period. Now, comma, you have established me as a consecrated in-chief initiated king, me in place of my father Tondo, period. But I am only a young man, comma, I have no experience, comma, and I do not know how to govern according to the non-visible, period. So Manman says that he doesn't have the experience like his father, because we know his father was a warrior. Even at a young age, he had the experience, spiritual fight, combat. He understood that. And he says, you have established me a consecrated in chief initiated king. And he's being established on the throne of his father. And he looks, when he sees the past of his father, he understood that his father was a warrior, had experience. So how he will be able to sit on that throne and govern properly. So he knows that he must be more powerful than warriors, than the wizards. Because behind the thrones in ancestral Africa, the kings, the initiated king, there were ceremonies where they were initiated in secret, where they were presented to certain entities. Because behind the throne, there is the throne entity. The entity must accept that person. This is why, for example, in ancient Babylon, regarding the king Nebuchadnezzar, even in the current class of the Bible, when he was king, and after his banishment, when he had to go live in the forest, no one else could take his throne. There was no what you call a coup, a military coup or something similar for somebody to overthrow him or to take the power, to take the throne. Because the entity there at that time, at that period, only had accepted Nebuchadnezzar. So the king echoed to. So Manman is conscious. How is he gonna act? How is he gonna sit? How is he gonna govern? How is he gonna understand that throne? How is he? Because he knows that he has to be accepted by the throne. How is he gonna do it? Verse 6, I suddenly find myself at the head of these people that the verb of tete has established, comma, these chosen people who are innumerable because of their multitude. Period. So he understood that it was the mission, that throne is not going to be easy. It's not, you need, because it says here, I suddenly find myself at the head of these people that the verb of tete has established. These chosen people who are innumerable. So there were many because of their multitude, and they were important. So the people, they were important, they were many, and spiritually as well, they were important because that's the chosen race, that's the chosen people. So his mission, to accomplish it, he understood that, whoa, this is serious. Verse 7, I am the servant of Tete, comma, put me therefore of intelligence in the spirit, to govern the people and to distinguish between good and evil. So he wants the intelligence from the great order of things. He doesn't want the intelligence of the visible. No. This intelligence, it is with uppercase I. Verse 8, without this, who is able to govern such an important people? Question mark. Because the people, like I've mentioned, they were important, spiritually important, innumerable, many. Verse 9, and Mandaté, the entity, said to Manman, I retain that you did not ask for yourself neither a long life, nor wealth, nor that of the uninitiated, and of the white, and even that of the mixed blood. So Mandaté retained that Manman did not ask a long life, wealth, the dead of the uninitiated, of the whites, of the mixed blood. Verse 10, since you ask for intelligence for you in order to be attentive to equity, comma, I will act according to your word. I will give to your spirit wisdom and intelligence, comma. So, not to the body, that is physical, visible, not to the soul, but to the spirit. I will give to your spirit wisdom and intelligence, because the request, the demand of King Solomon, of Manman, was wise. What he asked for. Because the entity of wisdom also guided him. That's why he says here, I will give to your spirit wisdom and intelligence. So the entity of wisdom will be there to assist you, to guide you. A science from one of the fruit of the entity known as the tree of the science of good and evil, comma. So here you may say, well, why is Solomon receiving the fruit of one of the entities known as the tree of the science of good and evil when it was forbidden for the first man, Motu, to consume it, for the first man and the first woman? Well, here it is not given to the soul, because we know that the first man and the first woman, that interdiction, that for the interdiction was for their soul, their condition in the astral plane, because they were astral. They were in the astral plane, souls. But Moto, his spirit, already knew that. The spirit of Moto already had that knowledge. A science from one of the fruit of the entity known as the tree of life, as the tree of the science of good and evil. So I'll repeat here, verse 11, I will give to your spirit wisdom and intelligence, comma, a science from one of the fruit of the entity known as the tree of the science of good and evil, comma, in sort that it will never have been after Moto, the first man, Muto, and those known, and that there will never rise after you another person endowed with such wisdom and intelligence, comma. So, Mandaté dit, the entity revealed to him that the wisdom, the intelligence that it will have, no one after Moto and Mutu. So that means Moto and Mutu, their wisdom, their intelligence did surpass that of Manman. So he said, it will never have been after Moto and Mutu. And those known, and who are those known? Those are the direct children of Moto and Mutu. The prophets like Kinyebwam, Dubise, Busi, people like that. Those are the known. But each had knowledge at their level. Verse 12, except the two beings who will come each in their turn to be born in the condition of the visible among the Sawa people. So here it is referring to the two mysterious. Now, because that's why Jokisabe, that's why even the current classical of the Bible, they will say there is here more than Solomon, because his knowledge of the true Christ, of Jokisabe, was more. And even today, at the time of the second of Zula, his knowledge, it's beyond. That's why if you disagree with the teachings of Zulu Lassan, you may be mad, confused. That's not going to change anything. The sun will still manifest itself. Meaning the day will manifest, the night will manifest. You found the sun here, you'll leave the sun here. Other generations will come. Other will say, no, well, Zulula 100 as well. No. Zulula 100 was always here in a consciousness that you cannot understand, penetrate, or conceive. Verse 13, moreover, I grant you what you did not ask for. The wealth, the power, and the glory, so that during all your earthly existence, no king will equal you. Verse 14, and if you walk in the ways of the verb of Tete, respecting his prescription and his commandment, as your ancestors did, he will give you a long life. Period. So that was the conscious request of King Solomon. So when you pray, when you ask, when you want something, when you request, just don't speak just simply to speak, just simply to use words, to repeat words and so on. No. Man use a spiritual language, a conscious language. So do not use your words simply. It is with precision. That was the message. All glory to Loba, the only and unique creator.